At 4:30 a.m. Eastern, President Trump announced the operation on Truth Social. Large-scale strikes against Venezuela and its leader. Mordeau had been captured and was being flown out of the country. Later that morning, Trump held a press conference at Mar-a-Lago. Trump called it one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might in American history. Then came Trump's significant announcement.
Such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time.
The United States would temporarily oversee Venezuela. American oil companies would invest billions to repair Venezuela's broken infrastructure. Critics immediately called it an occupation. Meanwhile, Mordeau's journey continued. With unverified reports, the USS Iwo Jima docked at the naval station in Guantanamo Bay, or took a helicopter to the base, where him and his wife were moved from the ship to the airfield. Waiting there, an unmarked Boeing 757, a Department of Justice aircraft, tail number obscured, no public call sign. The plane took off from Guantanamo Bay, heading north. Thousands of people tracked it on Flight Radar 24. A blank aircraft, no identification, flying from Cuba towards the United States. At 4:32 p.m. Eastern Time, the Boeing 757 landed at Stewart Air National Guard Base in upstate New York. From Stewart, a helicopter flew him to Manhattan, past the Statue of Liberty. Final destination, Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the same facility that once held El Chapo. Less than 24 hours from Presidential Palace in Caracas to federal prison in New York. That same day, Attorney General Pam Bondi unsealed a suspending indictment. Not just Mordeau, but his wife, Celia Flores, and his now son faced charges. Bondi's statement was direct. They will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil in American court. American fighters dismantled and disabled Venezuelan air defense systems. The first military bases were hit. La Carlota Air Base, communication centers. The goal was creating a corridor, a clear pathway into downtown Caracas, where the presidential palace is. Eyewitnesses reported at least 7 explosions. Thick smoke rose over the city. People ran for cover. Venezuela Defense Minister Vladimir Pedrino Lopez would later say his forces were in a ready position. They knew the US was coming. At 1:01 a.m. Eastern Time, 2:01 Caracas local time, the helicopter forces arrived at Miraflores Presidential Palace. The palace is a fortified compound, steel reinforced safe rooms, armed security. The assault force had trained for months on an exact replica. They knew every entrance, every corridor, every weak point. The Black Hawks descended into the compound. Immediately, the helicopters came under fire. Venezuelan security forces engaged. The American aircraft replied with overwhelming force. One helicopter was hit, but remained flyable. They moved with speed and precision. Mordeau, alerted by the explosions across the city and gunfire at his compound, he attempted to reach one of the palace's panic rooms, but he didn't make it. Both Mordeau and his wife gave up, being dragged from their bedrooms. They surrendered. They were taken into custody, zip-tied and secured. The ground phase lasted approximately 30 minutes. Then came the extraction. At 3:29 a.m. Eastern Time, the entire force was over the water. Both prisoners were aboard. Minutes later, they landed on the USS Iwo Jima. Not a single American service member was killed. Venezuelan officials would later claim 40 people died in the operation. The US maintains all casualties resulted from defensive actions. The actual number remains unverified. Mordeau sits handcuffed and blindfolded aboard the USS Iwo Jima. January 3rd, 2026, 5:47 a.m. Nicolas Maduro sits handcuffed and blindfolded aboard a US warship.
The United States has taken control of Venezuela.
And early today, at my direction, the United States conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela.
3 hours ago, he was the president of Venezuela. Fast forward to right now, he's on American soil in a Brooklyn federal prison. But this isn't about one man. The United States just took over an entire country. A foreign government, $17 trillion in proven oil reserves, the largest in the world. A nation of 28 million people, and they did it with a military operation that lasted less than 30 minutes. How did this happen? What does this mean for Venezuela? And what could be happening next? Nicolas Maduro, a former bus driver who rose to power in Venezuela under Hugo Chavez. When Chavez died in 2013, Maduro took over. One of the most oil-rich countries on earth collapsed. 7 million people fled, but that's not why the United States wanted him. In 2020, the US indicted Maduro on narco-terrorism charges. The accusation, he ran Cartel de los Soles, the cartel of the suns. The cartel flooded American cities with drugs. Hundreds of thousands of Americans died from drugs tied to his operation, until the US military decided to act. Operation Absolute Resolve. Months of planning. Intelligence agencies tracked Maduro's every move. Delta Force built a full-scale replica of his palace compound and trained for the raid. Over 150 aircraft positioned across 20 bases. The USS Iwo Jima moved into position in the Caribbean. By early December, everything was ready, but the weather delayed the mission. The force waited through Christmas and through New Year's. But January 2nd, the weather finally broke. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time, President Trump gave the order, "Good luck and Godspeed." Over the next hours, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases across the Western Hemisphere. More than 150 aircraft, Black Hawk helicopters carrying Delta Force operators and law enforcement officers flew at 100 feet above the water, low enough to stay below radar detection. As the helicopters approached Venezuelan shores, the United States military began layering effects. Space Command and Cyber Command. Across Caracas, the power grid went dark. Then the air campaign began.